Joining us now from our bureau in Washington, D.C. is Will Chamberlain, an attorney and the publisher of the outlet Human Events. Will, regarding Bill Barr, I mean, he's now kind of at the center for Democrats, and it might be, in my opinion, because he's been very successful at kind of derailing what they want to do. I mean, he's kind of become the focal point of their recent attacks. I just want to start with this latest Stone case. What type of power does Bill Barr have in regarding intervening in that case?
Well, it's actually not as extensive as people seem to say. I mean, the prosecutors and the Department of Justice has the ability to issue a sentencing recommendation, but ultimately, because Stone has already been convicted of making false statements under oath, he's going to be sentenced by the judge, and it's the judge's ultimate responsibility to decide what the appropriate sentence is. So at this point, the Department of Justice's role is really advisory in the Stone case. It doesn't have the power to sort of end the prosecution.
I think that's an excellent point. I mean, a lot of people are kind of looking at the DOJ saying that they exerted their influence over this situation, but really, at this point, it is just words. Am I wrong to say that? I mean, now it comes down to Judge Amy Berman Jackson. She has the decision to kind of side with either what the prosecutors originally said, which was 7 to 9 years, or take what the DOJ kind of said after the fact, the 3 to 4 year sentence. And she is the one who has that sole discretion. Am I correct?
Right. I mean, there are some constraints on Judge Jackson's discretion. For example, if she tried to sentence Stone to life in prison for this false statement charge, that certainly wouldn't fly. But she does have plenty of discretion to sentence, and she's supposed to do it based on the sentencing guidelines and other factors. But she does have a lot of discretion. And so it's a little bit much to say that the rule of law is falling apart just because the Department of Justice has decided not to apply a very specific sentencing enhancement or argue for a very specific sentencing enhancement in the Stone case. And
I think a lot of this outrage will kind of be brought to light, especially if Judge Jackson ends up siding with that more 3 to 4 year type of sentence. It would kind of show that a lot of the outrage in the media was not deserved. I mean, it would kind of give credence, if anything, to Attorney General Bill Barr and the recommendation that they put out there. But I do want to kind of bring it back to what the media is saying about Bill Barr in general as well, because he's kind of been the focal point of them ever since the Mueller report. I mean, of course, they say that he auditioned for the Attorney General position using his memo, and then after, when it came out, he kind of gave his summary. They didn't like the way that it went, even though the findings of the Mueller report were actually pretty in line with what he said. Why do you think that now it's Attorney General Barr that's kind of the focus of their criticisms?
Well, I think it's two reasons. First off, he's very effective. I mean, this is clearly one of the most intelligent members of the cabinet. One of the most experienced members of the cabinet. He was a former attorney general and a long time, very, very distinguished lawyer. And the second reason is that he doesn't care about what the media says. He's just a honey badger. He really doesn't care. He's at the point in his career where they don't have any influence over his livelihood, that he's just not, he can't really be swayed by them. And so I think that's the reason the media wants to take him down. They see him as a threat. They see him as very bad in terms of contradicting the narratives they want to put out there. And they see him as very effective for the Trump administration, which they're aligned against.
I think you bring up a really good point, too, because we kind of saw it with the impeachment trial a little bit. I think Republicans are starting to learn a little bit that the outrage is only as effective as they allow it to be. I mean, we saw it with the Ukraine stuff, and people were saying, oh, Republican senators, 20 of them could flip against the president, remove him from office. But we kind of saw Republicans then say a lot of this is just being pushed in the media. A lot of what's happening on social media or on the cable news networks isn't really true of how the American people feel. And now polls are kind of reflecting that as well. So I think they're kind of waking up to the idea that they don't have to cater to what's being the loud voices online or on cable or anything like that. So I think that falls in line with kind of what Attorney General Bill Barr is doing as well, to your point. But then we see now that he is assigning a prosecutor to kind of overview how the Flynn case was handled, kind of the Durham investigation, how that's still ongoing. What does this all speak about William Barr in generally and how he handles the office of the Attorney General?
Well, I mean, he's just not going to tolerate it being politicized against Republicans. That's certainly not to say that he's a partisan or that he's going to start doing partisan things on behalf of Republicans, but rather, you know, there's a lot to look at with the Michael Flynn case, especially the circumstances under which he was interviewed and the circumstances of his plea, the fact that there's a potential conflict of interest that his prior counsel had. So there's plenty to review in that case in terms of the behavior of the prosecutors. I think from Barr's perspective, he sees a Department of Justice under Obama and Holder that got completely out of line, that was completely politicized, and he's trying to undo that politicization.
Yeah, and he spoke about a two-tier type of method right now, and a lot of people who are critical of the way that the DOJ has been handling other cases in the past, they look at Andrew McCabe and say that he's going away kind of scot-free, and then you look at someone like Michael Flynn, someone like Roger Stone, who has similar allegations against them and is now facing time in prison. So really quickly, before I let you go too, what do you think we can suspect moving forward? Do you think it's going to be kind of a more single type of tier, a lot of more explanations from the DOJ? What should we be looking for?
Well, it's difficult. I mean, we don't know why Andrew McCabe wasn't indicted, because back in September, there was news that said that he had been told he would be indicted and that he should expect it shortly. So it's a surprise 6 months later to find out that apparently that's not going to happen. Maybe the grand jury refused to indict him. Remember, he's in D.C. This is a town full of politically aware Democrats who just might have refused to indict Andrew McCabe. I don't know exactly how we're going to get a single tier of justice when all these politically sensitive cases are being heard in the District of Columbia, which voted 92% for Hillary Clinton.
Yeah, it makes sense. And I don't know, regarding those other cases too, a lot of people want to see some vindication, but a lot of conservatives kind of saying, we keep being told, wait till the Horowitz report, wait till the Durham report, wait for all these things. And it seems that each time they are kind of being disappointed, I guess, to say the least. But I guess at this point, only time will tell. It's in Attorney General Barr's hands. Will Chamberlain, thank you very much for joining us tonight.